Welcome back. By now you should have a thorough understanding of what determines the value of a good, how we show this with respect to market value or price in the demand and supply diagram, and the market forces which constantly drive prices and quantities for every good to equilibrium, and the bad outcomes that happen when markets are not allowed to reach equilibrium. Let's review the key features of being at or moving towards equilibrium in the market for a particular good. First off, remember that gains from trade are maximized only at equilibrium. Graphically, we can say the total surplus is maximized at equilibrium. If quantity is below equilibrium, there are some uncaptured producer and consumer surplus, and if quantity is above equilibrium, there are wasteful trades where the cost is greater than value for the marginal consumer. Secondly, the market is efficient at equilibrium. Only high-value users actually buy the good, and only low-cost producers actually supply the good. This means that the market is satisfying the highest value users with the lowest cost sources of supply. In other words, we're getting the most for the least. For these reasons, economists generally say that equilibrium is a desirable place to be, even if that means higher prices for a good than people are used to. Remember what happened when we tried to use a law like a price ceiling to push down the price of a good? Some lucky consumers, those first in line, might enjoy increased consumer surplus, but many others will be left out of the market altogether because of a shortage of a good that is bound to occur, and with shortages come reductions in total surplus. So my motto is respect the equilibrium. Now, appreciating what it means for markets to be at equilibrium, or moving towards equilibrium, as we might say, is so important that I want to dwell on it some more here. And I want to give you a real-world situation to illustrate why this is so important. I was going to use a ho-hum textbook example, but then it struck me. I have a real-world example based on my own life. Here's the situation. I live out in the country. Among my few neighbors is a man we like to call Mr. Know-It-All. This guy has the most perfect lawn you will ever see. He mows religiously whenever the grass is green. We see him out there almost every day on his zero-turn, fancy John Deere riding mower. He's keeping his lawn trimmed like it's Pebble Beach. His fetish for lawn care borders on the obsessive. Now, another neighbor down the road is a sweet, kindly old lady who is chronically ill. This poor old gal has so many health problems she could be a case study for med schools. She needs to see different doctors and specialists multiple times each week to keep track of her various conditions, the interaction of her prescription drugs, and so on. And because her health is so poor, we know that when she leaves the house, she's probably going on a doctor visit. And sometimes she's so frail and weak that she has to call for an ambulance to take her to the hospital. Then you have me and my family. Ordinary folks, we live in the country, we commute to the city. We just so happen to have two vehicles. One huge gas-guzzling SUV and one tiny gas-sipping economy car. Now, normally our corner gas station has plenty of gas available for everyone in the area to do whatever they want to, whether mowing their grass, commuting to work, doing motorsports for fun, what have you. But let's assume that one day, due to a terrible set of circumstances, the gas supplied to our corner station is cut off. It could be a pipeline failure or a refinery explosion, something like that. It really doesn't matter. The important thing is that this time there's not enough gas to go around. That is, there's not enough for all of us in our neighborhood to fulfill all of our customary uses of gas. How do we ensure that the limited supply of gas available is going to be used wisely? How do we ensure that gas will only go towards highly valued uses and be denied to lower valued ones? Well, there's several options. What if we simply resorted to a first come, first served situation? You'd better get up early to be first in line when the gas station opens, and all three of us neighbors are probably going to be out of luck here. The sickly old lady, bless her heart, hasn't the stamina for it. Mr. Know-It-All likewise lacks the time and energy, and my wife and I are far too busy attending to our kids, dogs, and chickens in the morning. Who wins here is the other neighbors down the street with 16 and 17-year-old kids. They simply dispatch the kids, whose time, let's face it, is not so valuable, down to the gas station to do their waiting for them. And then probably they reward these valiant efforts by, say, letting Junior or Sis use the car on Saturday night. Now, one other obvious thing to do would be to just ration out a fixed amount of gasoline to everyone. There's 1,000 gallons left at the station, let's say, and the manager anticipates there'll be 100 customers that day, so everybody gets 10 gallons each. This is only fair, right? Well, Mr. Mow-It-All is retired, so between his constant mowing and infrequent trips into town, he only needs, let's say, 6 gallons of gas each week. He'll be perfectly happy with this rationing scheme. My family, on the other hand, normally uses 18 gallons per week, making daily trips, commuting to town in both our SUV and our subcompact car. We could, however, get by on a mere 6 gallons if we parked the SUV and carpooled in the economy car. This would involve a major hassle for my family, but with only 10 gallons available, we would have no choice but to do at least some carpooling. Okay, now the sickly old lady, bless her heart, and her husband, between her doctor visits and his commute to work, they're going to use around 16 gallons of gas per week. A reduction to 10 gallons puts her in serious danger of getting stranded on the way to the hospital, and that may well kill her. So while Mr. Mow-It-All and my family could manage on the 10-gallon ration, she cannot live with this situation, literally. And therefore we need a better method of allocating gasoline to the most important uses. Okay, so here's another option. How about we bring in a notable citizen to allocate the gas according to her evaluations of whose uses are worthy and not? Okay, somebody maybe like a judge, somebody who everybody respects and admires. This might work so long as she genuinely knew the truth about people's differing valuations of gas, and as long as we could trust her to judge fairly. But even with a wise, trustworthy judge, this method breaks down once we start involving more than just a few people. Note that there are hundreds of regular customers at our local gas station, and hundreds more who might occasionally stop in off the highway. In reality, no single person, not even a committee of well-informed experts, could possibly gather and adjudicate all the facts required to make fair decisions about each of these people's true need for gasoline. Okay, so maybe we should just have our decider simply ask people what they're going to use the gas for, only approving what she deems worthy uses and denying frivolous ones. For instance, I'm driving Granny to the hospital would count. I'm going squirrel hunting on my ATV would not. Can you anticipate a problem with this? Mr. Mow-It-All is so serious about keeping his lawn perfect that he just might use any means necessary to keep his mower running. I can see him pulling into the gas station with Granny in the passenger seat, proclaiming, "I'm taking Granny down for her cancer treatment." He drives home, however, on the back roads, unseen. The Granny, who is fine, by the way, she's happily watching Matlock reruns. And he's siphoning the gas from his pickup back into the mower. You know why. Any system that relies on people putting others' perceived needs above their own is a system bound to fail. It violates, remember, the self-interest principle. Assume all men are knaves. We should assume that people will put their own interests first, even if that involves lying, cheating, or worse. What we need here is a system that induces people like my family to give up some of our gas and transfers it to exactly those persons who really can't go without. Crucially, we need a system that does not rely on either having one decision-making authority with perfect knowledge of thousands of different people's uses and valuations of gasoline, or trusting people to put others' interests, most of whom, remember, are total strangers, ahead of their own self-interest. What we need is a price system. Let's say the price of gas had been $3 a gallon. The supply disruption sets off a chain reaction of market forces that push the price up, let's say, to $4 per gallon. What happens at this new equilibrium price? Will Mr. Mow-It-All cut back on lawn care? Heck no. I honestly think he'd drop his satellite TV service rather than be deprived of his perfect lawn. Will the sickly old lady, bless her heart, cut back on her doctor visits? Hardly. It's truly a matter of life and death for her. A permanently higher gas price might mean fewer presents for her grandkids or something along those lines, but she will endure it. All right, what will my family do? I reckon that continuing our old driving habits costs us an extra $720 per year when the price of gas goes from $3 to $4 per gallon. That's money we could spend on more Christmas presents for our kids, money we could donate to our church, money we could use to go out to a nice restaurant several more times per year, and so on. We're thinking about our choices now. We're switching to full-time carpooling at this price, and this is actually going to save us $2,500 a year because now we rarely need to fill that gas guzzling SUV at all. Informed only by the price change and nothing more, my family alone goes from using 17 gallons per week down to 5 gallons per week, thus liberating 12 whole gallons of gas for others' use. Similar choices will be made throughout the market. Higher prices will induce those who can more easily forego some gas consumption to do so, enabling those who really do need to maintain their old consumption habits to do so. And we've only covered demand-side forces. When the price of gasoline rises in one part of the country by 33%, as in our example, but stays the same in other places, as it presumably will in this story due to the localized nature of the supply disruption, entrepreneurs are going to have big incentives to bring in more supply from outside the area. Just like the sharp price increase yells at consumers to cut back on consumption if you can, it acts like a beacon telling suppliers or potential suppliers, bring more of the good right here, right now. I can envision tanker truck operators deciding to work overtime to profit from this locally higher gas price. Or heck, if the situation is really drastic and the price change is really big, we'll probably start to see guys with pickup trucks drive 100, 200 miles away, fill up a truck bed full of jerry cans, and resell the gas to their neighbors 5 gallons at a time. So what the market does here that no central planner could do and no self-interested people would do is to seamlessly divert resources from lower to higher valued uses with no muss, no fuss. All it took was a naturally occurring price change, a process that, if markets are simply left free to operate as we know from theory and practice that they will, it will happen almost automatically based on the strong and swift operation of market forces. You can see why Adam Smith marveled at this, stating that within the price system, people are led by an invisible hand to promote an end which was no part of their intention. You can see why the French economist Frédéric Bastiat attributed the smooth functioning of inordinately complex world markets to the hand of providence. You can see why Leonard Read, of iPencil fame, described the market process in terms of wonder and miracles.
I believe in miracles. Where you from? You sexy thing.
So let's sum up. Equilibrium means maximum gains from trade and market efficiency. Equilibrium prices happen for a reason. That's where marginal value or demand meets marginal cost or supply. When these factors change, that is, when supply, demand, or both change, equilibrium price and quantity must change as well, or we won't have maximum gains from trade and maximum efficiency in this market. High prices aren't fun for buyers, but equilibrium prices are the truth about market conditions.
You want answers!
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
For markets to function well, the truth must prevail. Laws, regulations, and any other political restrictions that prevent prices from changing and markets from constantly achieving equilibrium distort the functioning of markets. When markets don't function well, economies don't grow and prosper, and people suffer needlessly the pain and deprivation of extreme scarcity. As we'll discuss in Unit 2, when markets function well, economies thrive, growth happens, and the living standards of all people are raised. In our final lesson of Unit 1, however, we'll take one last look at the market process, introducing the most important person in the economy, the entrepreneur, and showing how the interaction of prices for all goods across all markets, provided they are equilibrium prices and therefore telling the truth about reality, generate feedback mechanisms that ensure an overall tendency to increase the value of resources and generate economic progress as if by an invisible hand.